Hey guys, what's up? It's iFlynn here, and in today's video, we're going to be going over my top 10 Warframes for 2024. Now, just a quick disclaimer before we move on with the video. This is just my opinion. These are frames that I would recommend a new player work towards as they require little investment to be worthwhile, so they're not too complicated to mod, they're not too complicated to understand, and whenever you do invest the mods and stuff into them, they make missions very quick or very easy. So this list is also in no particular order, so I'm not saying that the number 10 frame is any better or worse than the number 1 frame, because each frame is better or worse at different things. So one frame might be good at defense missions, where the other frame might be good at getting exterminate missions done quickly. That's just how it is. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in to the list. So at number 10, we do in fact have Gauss. Now, the reason that we recommend Gauss to newer players is because he has knockdown immunity without the need for Prime Sure Fit It. He's got a lot of damage reduction from his 2. He's also got fire rate, melee speed, sprint speed, and reload speed buffs. He's got armor strip, and he just gets missions done very quick. On top of that, he's quite easy to get. All you have to do is disruption missions on Sedna, and that is pretty much it. So for a quick little demonstration on how Gauss works, you want to make sure that his 4 and his 2 are active at all times, and then what you want to be doing is you want to be using a mixture of his 1 and his 3 to build up his passive on the right hand side. I'm going to go ahead and pause these enemies here. Very good, very nice. So whenever you use the 1 and whenever you use the 3, you're going to notice that that passive is going to build up. And what you can do with the third ability is if you tap it, you cast a certain type of element, and then if you hold it, you cast a different type of element, and that is going to strip away all the enemy's armor, which is very nice, making them easier to kill with your weapons. So all you got to do to mod Gauss is throw on like a bunch of duration and just a tiny little bit of strength if you want. I only have 40% on this build, and you've seen that those enemies, even though they're level 215 steel path enemies, they did have their armor stripped, and that's because we focused on building up that passive. So that passive is that bar on the bottom right hand side. So that's pretty much Gauss. You want to be using him in the likes of exterminate missions, capture missions, spy missions, etc. Anything that you just want to sort of get done fast, so you have a beginning and an end in clear sight. Those are the types of missions that Gauss really excels in. And like I said, he's got knockdown immunity, so you can even use something like an explosive weapon, for example. As long as you have that 2 active, you can shoot at your feet, and you can just fly through missions like so, and just, you know, rain down hell on the enemies and get them done really quickly. So here at number 9, we have Wisp, and the reason that we recommend Wisp is because she has health buffing and regen on her first mote. She has fire rate and movement speed buff on her haste mote. She's got close range crowd control and electric damage on her electric mote. Then she has iframes with her second ability, so you see whenever we cast it, my health and shield actually goes gray up there in the top right hand corner. I don't know if you can see it under my overguard, but whenever we cast it too, we get some iframes. The third ability is like a radiation crowd control, which is also a damage multiplier, so you go ahead cast it like that. And then the fourth ability is actually a helm slot. So the fourth ability normally is like a big laser beam, but we don't actually use that. Instead, we use it sort of as a helm of platform. So I went ahead and I've thrown Nourish on, and as you can see, just from me casting my third ability, some of the enemies are actually taking a considerable amount of damage there just from the third ability alone, and my Sentinel dealing some damage. So if we just go ahead and kill all those guys and we spawn them back in again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast my damage buffing ability. So I've picked Nourish, which is over my 4. You can put on Roar if you want. And then, of course, have my buffs from my motes. Go ahead and maybe throw this guy out. You know, if you TP to your motes with your third ability, your decoy that you send out, so this little guy here, to cast the iframes, that's also going to cast the Breach Surge as well, as you can see, which is going to make the range of that a lot bigger. And then you can just go ahead and kill all the enemies you want with that damage buff from your fourth ability, either Roar or Zada's Whisper or Nourish, whatever you choose, and just go ahead, keep on spamming your third ability to spread that damage with the radiation, and everything is going to die. So she's just the frame that makes things quite easy, makes you tanky, crowd controls enemies with the electric, gives you some nice weapon handling buffs and stuff like that, and spreads damage, gives you the iframes, survival, easy peasy. That's Wisp. So next up we have Xaku. Now the reason that we pick Xaku is because he has many different uses. The first of which is being AFK in the likes of defense and interception missions. So what you can do is you can take Ivara's bow ability and you can put down an invis arrow. So you have to subsume Ivara to get this. And then you go ahead, you cast Gaze on an enemy, and this is going to strip away their armor. You go ahead, cast your 2, and then you cast your 4, and what's going to happen is that's going to pause the duration of your 3, so the armor strip, and pause the duration of your 2, which is your void weapons that are around you, and it's just going to kill all the enemies. So again, these are level 250 steel path enemies. They're getting viral applied to them by my little companion, and you can see all the guns that I have equipped here. I'm invisible. I'm just standing like AFK in like an interception point or defense mission or whatever, and you know, they're just being totally murdered by Xaku. We also have a box breaker build for Xaku. So a box breaker build basically just allows you to run around and break all of the boxes like through walls and stuff like that by going ahead and casting your 4. It's gonna like strip away his armor, so you're in this like skeletal form. And then you can also use Mag's greedy pull ability to pull all the loot into you. So this is quite good if you're farming the likes of Entradi Landforms in the Zarman tile set, you know, and because you can get Xaku quite early, then, you know, it just makes him like a good sort of efficient farming frame to pick up like additional resources and stuff like that. So this is just another like efficient build for Xaku. And Xaku's first ability, Zada's Whisper, is actually one of the best damage buffing abilities in the game. It pairs really well with the likes of the Fenmore, the Ladim, and the Fairlax because of their Incarnate perks. So what you want to do with these weapons is you want to go ahead and land your headshots. And as you can see, you get the sort of like void status effect. You go ahead, cast your Incarnate form. I have Nourish on here as well as another additional damage buff. But you just go ahead and fire, and you can deal upwards of like 200,000 damage a shot. I know you can't see it right now, but whenever you keep on going in missions, like you're doing like Steel Path content, this combo, just trust me, is really deadly, and it's going to make killing enemies like you're basically slicing through paper. So Zada's Whisper plus Fenmore, Ladim, or Fairlax with the final Devouring Attrition perk. I forget what it's called on the Fairlax. And then having Nourish on there as well, it's going to make it very easy. Nourish gives you additional viral damage, which is nice, and on top of that helps you sustain your energy. So Xaku is just a very good go-to. And again, if you're struggling even more, what you can do, you've got Gaze on there for the armor strip, which is even better. Of course, with this build, I need to build up some kills for multi-augmented for more power strength to get the strip. So it's about, I think, 100 and something kills that I need to get before I can totally strip with one cast of Gaze. But even if it's not at the right breakpoint value to totally armor strip, you can see that their armor is actually reduced. So you're still dealing additional damage because they have less armor, right? And again, you can go ahead and you can cast your 4 to pause the duration of your 1 and your 3. So then you can have constant uptime on all of your abilities. So very easy, sort of like lazy frame, very effective, and is just going to get you through Steel Path content, no problem. Also forgot to mention that you can get him quite early from Deimos bounties. Wisp, on the other hand, I realized I didn't talk about where you can get her. You have to do a sort of like Eidolon boss, which is quite deep into the game, but you can pick up her prime version from relics and public missions or from Warframe.market. Next up, we've got Styanax. So Styanax is a very good helm of platform because his first ability kind of sucks. His second ability is the best armor stripping ability in the game because it can strip high value targets. It's quite quick and it also restores your health. The third ability is a shield restore and energy regen, and then the fourth ability is sort of like a small area nuking ability which deals mainly slash damage, which also has an augment which grants you team-wide overguard. So you're unkillable, you can armor strip, you've got a helmet slot for a damage buff, and you also have great sustain from your third ability as well. So what is not to like about this? You go ahead, cast your damage buffing ability. So I've got Nourish on again, cast your third ability, do a little armor strip, cast your 4. As you can see, we built up a ton of overguard there in the top right hand corner, and within 2 casts of my fourth ability, everything is basically dead, right? And that's Steel Path enemies with their armor stripped in 1 cast, you know, all that their good stuff. Not a lot of mod augmented stacks on there, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So Styanax, he's quite easy to get. You have to complete the new war, which is part of the main quest line. Then after that, you get the Veilbreaker quest. Once you've completed that, you're going to have access to Cal missions, which is weekly. So you want to complete these Cal missions. You're going to pick up a resource called Stock during them, and then you're going to get access to Archon mods and the blueprint and blueprint or component blueprints for Styanax. Very simple frame to put together, and as you can see, his kit is quite effective as well. First ability, Helm slot, you can throw on any damage buffing ability in the game, and you're good to go. Number 6, we have Dante, which is the latest addition into the game, though you get him quite deep into the game, but he is another one of those frames that's going to make the harder content, so Steel Path content, quite easy. And if he makes Steel Path content easy, well, he's also going to make the regular missions easy, right? So the first ability is an Exalted Book, which is quite fun, but if you want to deal a lot of damage, you can go ahead and take that off and put Rhino's Roar ability on top of that to double dip damage on slash procs and stuff like that. And that's important because most of Dante's damage comes from slash procs. So we go ahead, we spawn in these heavy gunners, cast Roar, go ahead, press free twice, 1, 2, and then you press 4. Everything is dead, right? So very, 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 very strong frame. No armor strip. We had a little bit of viral procs applied from my companion there. We had our damage buffed up by Roar, but as you can see, just seeing those enemies, they just die. And that's not even mentioning the rest of Dante's kit. So he has Overguard as well, team-wide. So 2 casts of 2, then 4. And then you can give yourself a little companion, which is going to deal 50% of the damage that you deal, which can also be used as sort of like a primer, or he can be used to sustain your energy via Archon Stretch if you throw electric damage on him. And you also have these birds, which are going to make your status effects more effective, right? So they're going to be applied more often, so you're going to apply heat, viral, slash, etc. just far more often because you have these birds up. So quite a strong frame all around. There's not a lot that he can't really do. So yeah, he's great. At number 5, we have Revenant. Now, Revenant is definitely the best tanking frame in the game because his second ability, Mesmer Skin, basically just absorbs damage, right? So just think of it as 24 different instances of damage that are just going to be totally absorbed and ignored by this ability. And then what you can do is you can go ahead and use him as a helm platform as well. His 4th ability kind of sucks, so you can put on a damage buffing ability like Roar, Nourish, etc, etc. I recommend Roar because it's going to up his one-shot potential. So what you can do is you can go ahead, cast Roar, go ahead, cast your 1 on a few enemies around. And then if you use his 3rd ability, Reeve, just dash through these enemies, you're just going to be one shot. Now, this ability scales very, very, very well, or this combo. Obviously, the more that I kill, the more multi-augmented stacks I build up, the more damage I'm going to be dealing with the Roar Reeve combo, right? So I can one-shot, you know, very high-level Demolists or Demolishers with this sort of loadout. So very, very, very strong. And that's not even taken into consideration, like, applying a ton of viral procs or something like that, or if somebody else armor strips, or if you run emerald shards to armor strip or something like that. So alone, Revenant, very, very, very strong, very easy to farm. There's a prime version and a regular version, so he's just a busted frame. Next up, we have Saryn. So Saryn has very high damage per second nuking capabilities. She has damage buffing, and you just basically kill everything in no time. She's going to take those slow missions where a lot of enemies are running at you, like defense, for example, you need to kill a lot of enemies to progress. She's going to take those missions and just like make them very, very, very quick. And what we do is we want to be using her first ability, Spores. So this is going to spread kind of like a disease. So what we do is we spawn in all of the enemies. So let's just go ahead and get some heavy gunners here. We simulate. We cast our 1. We cast our 3. We shoot at this enemy here. All 20 of them are now infected. So what we can do is we can reduce their armor with Pillage, which I have over the 2. And then we can go ahead and apply Viral. Now, it might not seem like we're dealing a lot of damage, but this isn't considering like you're going to be shooting. You're going to be killing, right? That damage from your first ability is going to keep on scaling up and up and up and up and up. And as you can see, it's just, you know, reducing armor, dealing a ton of damage. And what we can do is we can spawn in these enemies here. And as one of them dies, it's going to spread again to the enemies that just spawned in. So it just keeps on scaling up and up and up and up and up. And eventually you're going to be one-shotting enemies as they spawn in until every single enemy is dead and your spores just basically bleed out, right? So again, if you want to speed up, you can go ahead, cast Pillage to reduce their armor even more. You don't want to be fully stripping armor because the first ability is dealing corrosive damage. So you deal more damage if the enemy actually has armor in this case. So we go ahead, we spawn in 5 more. As you can see, it just spreads straight to them, and this is just going to keep on spreading up and up and up and up and up until we're eventually, you know, just one-shotting them on spawn. Got the damage buff on the 3. Go ahead, miasma them for viral, widespread viral, easy peasy, and everything just dies. Next up, we have Vault. Now, Vault is a very versatile frame. There are a lot of different builds that you can make for this frame. So the first build is a armor stripping nuking build. So what we do is we go ahead and we cast Terrify. So this is Necrosis ability over the 1. And we go ahead and we press 4. We can then cast Terrify again. And as you can see, all of the armor is stripped. Now that is with no mult augmented built up, that we strip that armor that quickly. You'll eventually strip all the armor in one cast. And as you can see, you just deal a ton of electric damage. We're not shooting at them. Now, it's not the best nuking ability in the game, but what it also does is it builds up your shields, so you can have a very lengthy shield gate just by spamming this this fourth ability. You've also got the speed buff from the 2, and you can deal additional crit damage by shooting through the shield. Just go ahead, pick it up, which is going to do well with any weapon that has a high crit chance and a high crit damage multiplier. Then, of course, we have Vault's basically signature build, which is his speed build. We go ahead and we use Infested Mobility over the 4 to increase our base sprint speed, so we go even faster. So this is really, really, really good for just getting those exterminates, captures, etc. done. And then for that harder content where you deal no damage, we have a damage buffing build where we have the augment for his first ability, which gives us additional electric damage. Then we have the extra crit damage from the shield and additional damage double dipping from Rhino's Roar. And if we go ahead and we shoot at the bad guys, you're going to see that we deal a lot more damage just because we have all these abilities active. Now I am dealing magnetic damage because of the way that the elements sort of mix together. But as you can see, it literally doesn't matter because of how much damage we're actually built up with all these different buffs. A weapon build that this Vault build pairs very well with is actually the Phantasma. So this is the base Phantasma, and this build is basically like a ton of electric procs. And what you're going to notice is that you're going to see the electric procs just deal a ton of damage. We're building up like a ton of electric proc stacks, and they just do this one big tick of damage that just melt these enemies through their armor, right? So very cool, very nice. And that's just like totally buffed up by all these damage buff abilities. You also have to use Vault in the likes of Eidolons and stuff like that. Whether or not you're running Eidolons in the current sort of meta of Warframe is totally down to you, but it's just because he has so many different builds for so many different things that he makes this list. And on top of that, super easy to obtain from your clan's dojo. Next up, we've got Titania. Now, the reason that Titania is good is because of her 4th ability, where you turn yourself into a little pixie or fairy. Now, whenever you're in this form, you're not going to get hit that often because you're a lot smaller. And on top of that, you have her signature weapons, the Dex Pixie. And now you can make these things shoot a ton, like without having the reload. You can see that my ammo just sort of sits at 42 with the right arcanes and stuff like that. So it takes a little bit of investment. But the other cool thing is her Razor Wing Blitz augment, which basically speeds up your fire rate and your movement speed and stuff like that. So if I go ahead and cast an ability 3 times and I move a little, you can see that I move really quick. So she's one of the fastest frames in the game, so she's really good at getting like spy, capture, etc. done quite quickly. On top of that, her 3rd ability is basically her Helm slot, so you can throw a damage buffing ability on here, and you can just basically one-shot or shred down any enemy in the game. So for example, if you're doing the likes of an Archon hunt, right, you can put Zada's Whisper on. Just go ahead, cast your 4 on Zada's Whisper, Razor Wing Blitz, so cast your abilities 3 times, whatever, so you get that fire rate buff, movement speed buff, etc. And you just shred through basically any boss in the game. It's because some bosses have damage attenuation, which is basically you can't one-shot me, you have to shoot me multiple times, so having an extra fire rate and maximizing your damage per shot is the way to go in that circumstance, and Titania just makes that quite easy. You can also use her in the likes of Plague Star, etc, etc. So quick missions, boss shredding, good at events where you get good things for completing the events and stuff like that. She's basically a must pick, and on top of that, you can make more general builds for her as well, where she uses Pillage to strip away enemy armor and stuff like that. And yeah, she's just a fun frame as well. And last, but definitely not least, I have no idea how this frame has not been nerfed into the ground yet, because she literally does everything apart from armor strip, but you can use emerald shards now plus corrosive to just armor strip anyway. So this is Octavia, and we have to actually go ahead and unpause the enemies for this demonstration, because that's just how busted she is. So here we go, we just go ahead, 1, 3, 4, and then I'm going to cast Pillage. All these enemies are just going to shoot this ball eventually, and they're just going to die. Cast Pillage again. Boom. So you strip away all the armor with Pillage, or however you want to strip away the armor. And what happens is they shoot at the little Resonator Ball. They deal damage back to themselves. And they just die extremely fast. That's it. And you're invisible. Got damage buff, fire rate buff, speed buff. All that stuff. Absolutely phenomenally busted frame. Makes everything in the game extremely easy. Front controls everything, man. I don't know how they haven't nerfed her. Boom. Boom. And they're all dead. Very good, very nice. That's Octavia, and that's basically it for the list. Octavia is a little bit harder to get because her sort of like process of getting the normal is kind of complicated, but you can get the Prime version from Relics and stuff like that, or from Warframe.market, invest into the Prime. I recommend if there is a Prime available, so the only frames on this list where there isn't a Prime available is Xaku, Styanax, and Dante. So Gauss, Revenant, Saryn, Titania, and Octavia, and Wisp, I miss Wisp. They all have Prime versions, so get the Prime versions, and then spend your Forma and your Oricam reactors into those, and then that is basically it. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button below. If you want to see more Warframe content from me, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.